Trial resumed. Jury not present.
The court said, "Good morning. Please make your appearances."
Mr. Finkel said, "Good morning, Your Honor. Ryan Finkel, Juliana Murray, Micah Ferguson, and Justin Horton for the government. We're joined at counsel table by Isabel Loftus, who's a paralegal in our office."
Mr. Kamraju said, "Good morning, Your Honor. Sid Kamraju and Scott Skirick on behalf of Mr. Gov't. And Mr. Gov't is with us here at counsel table."
The court said, "Please be seated." On May 27, 2024, the government submitted a motion to admit certain exhibits consisting of preserved copies of online posts to G News and Gov't. ECF number 352. Defendant filed opposition papers on May 28, 2024, ECF 361. I've also reviewed the underlying documents the government seeks to admit, relying principally on Anderson v. United States, 417 U.S. 211, 1974. The government argues that it is not offering the posts for the truth of the matters asserted therein. Instead, it states that it is offering the posts for the fact that they exist, that they were made on media websites created and controlled by the defendant. I agree with the government that this anticipated use falls outside the definition of hearsay. In Anderson, the court determined that a statement was not hearsay because it was not offered to prove the truth of anything asserted therein, but to prove that the statements were made so as to establish a foundation for later showing through other admissible evidence that they were false. ID at 220. Further, to the extent that witnesses viewed the posts at issue, they are admissible as non-hearsay to show their effect on the viewer. SEC v. AT&T Inc. 626F. Sup. 3D 703. 737. SDNY 2022. Accordingly, I will not exclude the posts on hearsay grounds. I also find that under Federal Rules of Evidence 401 and 403, the posts on G News and Gov't, media organizations that the government alleges were created and controlled by the defendant, are relevant as proof of the G enterprise and as evidence of defendant's scheme to defraud. Accordingly, the government's motion is granted. Are there any further applications at this time?
Mr. Ferguson said, "Not with respect to that, Your Honor."
Mr. Skirick said, "No, Your Honor."
Mr. Finkel said, "Your Honor, I just wanted to place something on the record, if I may. After reviewing yesterday's transcript, and with the court's comments to counsel in the robing room in mind, which the government took very seriously, and takes very seriously, Ms. Schroff had flagged something for the government yesterday, which I just want to put on the record for the court. Yesterday morning, as the court knows, Ms. Schroff indicated that she needed more time to review a victim's 3,500 material. And I indicated that that victim was originally set to testify yesterday, but that we would not call her yesterday. And this would provide the defense with more time to review that new 3,500. Looking at the transcript, I wasn't clear in that moment that the decision not to call the victim was made that morning. Just before Your Honor took the bench, just before Your Honor called us into the robing room. In any event, the reordering decision seemed responsive to Ms. Schroff's request for more time, and that's why I raised it. To the extent I caused any misimpression with Your Honor, with the parties, I certainly apologize for that. I did not intend to do so. We will continue to work with defense counsel and continue to take very seriously and follow the court's instruction to conduct this trial in an efficient and responsible manner.
The court said, "I did not have a negative impression yesterday morning, and I'm so glad to see that everyone is working well together."
Mr. Finkel said, "Me too. Thank you."
Mr. Ferguson said, "I'm sorry, Your Honor."
The court said, "Go ahead."
Mr. Ferguson said, "I had one related point, another quick point to put on the record. We've been working very productively with defense counsel on a handful of stipulations related to Shamal Madrano's testimony as a summary witness regarding these G News and Gov't posts and other videos. We have made video clips of longer videos. The defense may seek to offer additional portions of the longer videos under the rule of completeness. We have agreed that the government may have substantive objections to those under the hearsay rules, for example. But we're not going to object under, timeliness or something like that. So that the defense has additional time to consider what, if any, other portions they'd like to offer. And I just wanted to put that on the record so it's clear the defense has comfort we're not going to object on that basis at a later date.
The court said, "I'm glad to hear that."
Mr. Ferguson said, "Thank you, Your Honor."
The court said, "Is there anything else?"
Mr. Kamraju said, "Not from us, Your Honor."
The court said, "So I'd like to have the witness back on the stand by, say, 9:29, so that he is here when the jurors come in. Thank you."
Mr. Finkel said, "Thank you."
Mr. Kamraju said, "Thank you, Your Honor."
Recess.
The court said, "Good morning. Please be seated. Would you have the jurors brought in?"
Jury present.
The court said, "Good morning, jurors."
The jury said, "Good morning."
The court said, "Please be seated. We are going to continue this morning with the cross-examination of Mr. Zhou. Remember that you're still under oath. You may inquire."
Mr. Kamraju said, "Thank you, Your Honor."
Lezhou, called as a witness by the government, having been previously duly sworn, testified as follows. Cross-examination, continued, by Mr. Kamraju.
Good morning, Mr. Zhou.
Good morning.
Yesterday, do you recall testifying about certain G fashion items that you purchased?
Yes.
Okay. And one of them were these pajamas, correct?
Correct.
And then there was the whistle, right?
Correct.
The shirt.
Yes.
And the hat, right?
Yes.
Okay. That's not all the items that you purchased from G Fashion, right?
Correct.
You purchased several more than that, right?
Correct.
When you met with the prosecutor, you went over the items that you purchased, correct?
Correct.
And you went through pictures of the items, correct?
Correct.
And that was of all the items you had purchased, right?
No.
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 How many items did you go over with them?
About 20 items.
Sorry.
20 items.
About 20.
Correct.
Okay. And when you were going through these 20 items, who decided on bringing these to court?
I decided.
Okay. So you're the one who chose which items were introduced as these exhibits?
Correct.
Okay. Did you discuss that with the prosecutors?
Yes.
Okay. Did they give you suggestions as to which items should be brought in?
They mentioned not a particular item, but in the category.
Okay. Like what kind of categories?
Hats, shirts, pants, and what I did jewelry.
Sorry, I didn't hear the last part.
No. Jewelry. Sorry.
Okay. So they didn't ask you to bring in jewelry?
No.
You picked the whistle. Do you consider the whistle to be jewelry?
I picked whistles, 2 whistles, yes.
Okay. So you picked 2 whistles to show?
Yes.
Okay. But they only asked you about one, right?
Correct.
So they did make some decisions?
No, they kept one.
Okay. But in court they only showed you one, right?
Yes.
So they did make some decisions about what to show here in court, right?
The court said, "He cannot testify as to what they were thinking. He can testify as to whether he made the decision."
Mr. Kamraju said, "Okay. You decided that you would bring 2 whistles to show to court, correct?"
Yes.
Okay. And the prosecutors only showed you one here in court, right?
Correct.
Thank you. Now, the approximately 20 items or so that you purchased from G Fashion. Did you discuss all of them with the prosecutors?
I purchased more than 20 items.
Okay. I'm sorry. Roughly how many items did you purchase?
About 30 items.
30 items. Okay. Remember yesterday you testified about the whistle, correct?
Correct.
And that was the gold whistle, right?
Correct.
It was a commemorative item of some sort.
I'm sorry?
It was a commemorative item of some sort.
It was a limited edition, was only 77 made.
Okay. Sorry. Limited edition. Mr. Kamraju said, could we bring up just for the witness, the court, and the parties GXVO 67, please? Your Honor. After conferring with the government, it seems this is in, so I'm going to ask to publish it to the jury as well.
The court said, go ahead.
All right. So, Mr. Zhou, do you see the date of this email?
Yes.
All right. It's February 28, 2021, is that right?
Correct.
All right. And this is the order confirmation for when you bought the limited edition whistle, correct?
Correct.
Now, you testified, I believe, that when you received the whistle, there was something that made you suspicious about it, right?
Correct.
That's why you waited, right?
I waited, yes.
Okay. And you waited because you thought there might be something wrong with it.
When I received it, when I first opened it, the packaging inside, it was a little bit of gold dust on it. And, of course, I pick up the whistle. The craftsmanship, it looked to me a little bit rough. Because this is a limited edition, that's collectible items, as the G Fashion promoted, this is a best craftsmanship items, so that's why I had concerns.
Okay. So you were dissatisfied with it, is that right?
Not dissatisfied. Because still as advertised, this is a limited edition, only 77 in the world. I understand that value itself, it's there. But what it is when I receive it, it's what I received.
The court said, Mr. Kamraju, would you draw the microphone closer to you, please?
Mr. Kamraju said, sorry, Your Honor. Yes. Is that better?
The court said yes.
Mr. Kamraju said, okay. And please let me know if you can't hear me.
I hear you.
Thank you. Mr. Kamraju said, could we show for the witness and the parties and the court GX V0-33, sorry, VO-33. Mr. Zhou, do you recognize this document?
Yes.
What is it?
This is screenshot I capture of the G Fashion website.
Okay. And what does the screenshot reflect?
Reflect my previous order and item dates, the amount paid.
Okay. And the amount paid for what?
All the item most of item purchased. This is not all of it.
Okay. So this is most of the items you purchased, but from G Fashion, is that right?
Correct.
Mr. Kamraju said, okay. Your Honor, I'm going to offer Government Exhibit VO-33 into evidence.
The court said, no objection?
Ms. Murray said, no objection.
The court said, it is admitted.
Government's Exhibit VO-33 received in evidence.
Mr. Kamraju said, could we publish it, please? All right. So previously we looked at the order confirmation for the whistle purchase, correct?
Correct.
And that was February 28, 2021, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So if you look down at the fifth row from the bottom, so February 12, 2021, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So after that date. Mr. Kamraju said, and we can pull that down. After that date, you made a number of purchases of G Fashion clothing, right?
Correct.
And I believe you testified that this doesn't even reflect all of the G Fashion purchases that you've made. Right?
Correct.
So despite your concerns about the craftsmanship of the whistle, you continued to buy G fashion, right?
Yes.
And you continued to spend a significant amount of money on G fashion, right?
To spend the money also was towards to help the G fashion grow. Because my understanding. I'm part of the G fashion stock shareholder. I will contribute as much any way I can, even by purchasing items.
So you were trying to contribute to the growth of G fashion by purchasing these items, right?
Correct.
And you believe that G fashion was withdrawn. You believe that the growth of G fashion was important to the movement's goals, correct?
Because Miles Guo mentioned G fashion valuation was tremendous high, also reached billions dollars.
Right. But I asked you if you understood that the growth of G fashion was important to the movement. Sir.
Yes.
Okay. So you were trying to, in addition to whatever you just testified to. You were trying to also help the movement by purchasing G fashion wear, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. So you continued to buy G fashion wear, right?
Correct.
Now, you had previously withdrawn. Prior to buying a G Club's membership. You had also purchased G fashion, right?
Correct.
Now, after you purchased your G Club's membership, you started receiving discounts on your G fashion wear. Right?
Correct.
How much, what percentage discount were you receiving?
50%.
Okay. And so each time you bought one of these items you got 50% off, right?
Not every time.
After you bought the G Club's membership, right, sir?
Correct.
So how much in total discounts did you get, sir?
If estimated, the discount I couldn't get accurate discount on the amount of numbers.
Well, how much of a refund did you ask for, sir?
Refund from which?
G Fashion.
I asked for over $12,000 refund from G Fashions.
Okay. And $12,000 is what you spent after receiving the 50% discount?
Also includes non-discount items.
It also includes non-discounted items.
Correct.
Okay. So would it be fair to say that your discount amount was in the thousands of dollars, sir?
Ms. Murray said, objection to form.
The court said, overruled. You may answer.
Yes.
It was over $10,000, right, sir?
Yes.
Okay. So you paid $50,000 for the membership, right?
Yes.
And in the course of a year and a half or so, you earned more than $10,000 in discounts, right?
Ms. Murray said, objection. Form.
The court said, overruled. You may answer.
Yes.
And those were for products that you were also buying because you wanted to help the movement, right?
Ms. Murray said, objection.
The court said, overruled. You may answer.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Sure. Mr. Kamraju said, could we have it read back please?
The court said, go ahead.
Record read.
Not just help, but also towards to help this company grow and to get the stock value high.
Right. But, sir, didn't you just testify a few minutes ago that one of the reasons why you were buying G Fashion was to help the movement?
Ms. Murray said, objection, Your Honor.
The court said, sustained. Aston answered.
When did you ask for your refund, sir?
I couldn't remember the dates.
Was it after you started talking to the prosecutors?
No.
So you requested your refund prior to speaking with the prosecutors, is that your testimony?
Yes.
And that's for G Fashion, sir, is that right?
Yes.
What about your G Club's refund, when did you ask for that?
I filed it July 15, 2023.
So you remember the date of the G Club's refund was July 15, 2023, is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Was the G Fashion refund request made after that?
I don't recall that.
So you don't remember if the G Fashion one was before or after the G Clubs?
Ms. Murray said, objection.
The court said, asked and answered.
Now, if you look at GXVO 33, there's a line for March 1st, 2021, correct?
Correct.
Okay. The first line there. Do you see that?
I see the highlighted, yes.
Right. Okay. So that reflects a column for which you received a refund for an item, right?
Yes.
Okay. So at any point if you were dissatisfied with something, you could request a refund, correct?
This particular item was out of stock.
Okay. So you were dissatisfied with, you didn't receive the item, so you got a refund, right?
It was out of stock. I never received.
I'm sorry, sir, I'm just asking if you received a refund.
Was credit to the credit store.
Now, you spoke a minute ago about the G Club's membership. And I believe you testified on direct that you paid for both of those memberships by check, right?
Correct.
Mr. Kumraju said, could we have GXVO 26, please, which is in evidence. Bring that up for the jury as well. So these are the checks, right?
Correct.
Okay. Mr. Kumraju said, and if we could scroll to page 10, please. All right. Now, this is your member page, is that fair to say?
Correct.
All right. So it reflects your name with your Tier 5 membership, right?
Correct.
And it lists membership benefits there. It's on the left side.
Yes.
Could you just read what it says there?
G Fashion 50% off, G Club brochure.
Mr. Kumraju said, okay. And could we go to page 12 of that exhibit, please? Okay. Sorry, this is the check again, right? Okay. Sorry. This is the right one. All right. This is the membership page for the Tier 2 membership that you purchased, right?
Correct.
Okay. Now, this you purchased on behalf of your sister, right?
No, at the moment was introduced as we purchase, in the future we can transfer to the family.
Okay. Could you explain that please, sir?
Yes. Miles Gua mentioned the G Club, the membership, the Tier 1 to Tier 5. The follower, we can purchase. But that was offered the passport. But my sister doesn't have to, I don't need to put her name first. I have the right to transfer to my directed family members.
So if I understand correctly, sir. The idea was that you could purchase the membership in your name so that eventually you could transfer it to a family member if you wanted. Right?
Correct.
Okay. And was that benefit, in your mind? Was that benefit particularly useful for family members who are located in China?
Only to the direct family members, doesn't matter if in China or other countries.
Okay. So anywhere, right?
Yes.
Now, you filled out a G Club's membership agreement, correct?
There's no agreement. I never signed it or received.
Mr. Kumraju said, so can we go to page 8, please? Can we just blow up that email?
This is a payment received confirmation emails.
Right. I was just asking if you could read the first line of the email, sir.
Yes. Dear Zhou, on August 25, 2021 at 47 minutes and 10 seconds. You submitted your completed and executed application to become a Tier 5 member of G Clubs. We received your membership fee in the amount of $50,000. Your application is under review and we may contact you for additional information. We will email you confirmation of our decision within 30 days.
Okay. So I just want to make sure I understand correctly, sir. You said you never submitted a G Club's application, is that right?
Ms. Murray said, objection, Your Honor.
The court said, sustained.
Mr. Kamaraju said, okay. So you received this email without having submitted that application, is that right?
Ms. Murray said, objection, Your Honor.
The court said, sustained.
Mr. Kamaraju said, we can take that down. Thank you. Now, on direct you testified that Mr. Gov't ultimately gave you the opportunity to purchase H coin, right?
He mentioned the H coin would be offered to followers.
Okay. But there is a point at which H coin could not be purchased by U.S. residents, right?
Correct.
And so I believe you testified on direct that there came a point where U.S. residents could purchase H coin. Correct?
Not a well. He said in the future will expand the H Himalaya exchange territory by once a proper license acquired.
Okay. So once the proper license is acquired, then U.S. residents may be able to purchase it, right?
Yes.
Mr. Kamaraju said, could we have GXVO 78, please, which is in evidence? Okay, sir. Can you just remind us what this is?
Yes. This is a nominee shareholder agreement provided to me from UK London Club.
Mr. Kamaraju said, okay. And the first line under letter of agreement, can we just blow that up? All right. Do you see the line that starts, I am pleased to inform you that?
Yes.
And do you see where it says, in recognition of the contributions made by you?
Yes.
That's a reference to your contributions to the farm, right?
No, the contribution I understand is all of the previous G-series investments.
Okay. So your understanding is that the contributions that are referred to here are the G-series of investments. Not the work that you did on behalf of the farm.
Some contributions for volunteer works towards contributions, donation contributions.
So it all goes together in figuring out the contribution, right?
The work, the time, effort put into it and the donations.
Yes. That's what I was referring to, the work and the contributions. They all play in together in determining what benefit you receive, right?
Ms. Murray said, objection, Your Honor.
The court said, overruled. You may continue.
At that time, yes, the contribution, I understand it as the donations and the time and effort put into it.
Mr. Kamaraju said, now, could we go to page 8, please? I'm sorry, could we scroll back to page 7 quickly? Do you see the subparagraph there that starts C?
Yes.
All right. You see the part that says, you hereby consent to not performing the following?
Yes.
And it goes on to say, to allow you to benefit and continue. Do you see that language?
Yes.
Okay. So this is telling you things that you should not do if you want to keep the preferential H coin allotment, right?
I'm sorry?
This provision is talking about things that you should not do in order to maintain the beneficial H coin offering you were getting. Right?
Yes.
Mr. Kamaraju said, okay. If we could go to the next page and just blow up number 3, please. Could you read that, sir?
Yeah. You undertake to not demonstrate, whether directly or indirectly, or otherwise facilitate in any form, any support or benefit in any form, to the Chinese Communist Party, CCP, quote, or any CCP officials.
Okay. So one of the things that you should refrain from doing is supporting the CCP, right?
I'm sorry, referring.
Well. You testified previously that this is talking about things you shouldn't do to keep your H coin allotment, right?
Correct.
And one of the things is not support the CCP, right?
Correct.
Because the movement is anti-CCP, right?
Correct.
So if you supported the CCP, obviously that would be anti the movement, right?
Not me support, but
anyone, sir. I'm not referring to you specifically.
Correct.
Now, you talked a little bit about the work that you did on behalf of the farms, right?
Correct.
So you actually did a substantial amount of work for the farms, right?
Yes.
Tell us again what kind of work you did.
Transcripts, reviewing translation, and we did editing and streamings.
Okay. So is it fair to say that the work you just described is targeted to disseminating the movement's message?
Help to spread the words, yes.
Okay. And you knew that broadcasting was a significant part of the movement's efforts, right?
I will say equal to other informations, other type of work.
Okay. And I'm not asking you to say what's more or not. I'm just saying it was a big part of what the movement did was broadcasting, right?
No, it's not big part. I say it's equal to other work.
Okay. Well, you first learned of Mr. Guo by watching online videos that have been posted, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And did you first see him on YouTube?
Yes.
When was that again?
February 2017.
So you saw Mr. Guo withdrawn. Was that on Mr. Guo's YouTube account?
No.
Okay. So you saw him being rebroadcast on somebody else's YouTube account?
Not a rebroadcast. He appeared on an interview on someone's broadcast channels.
Which interview was that?
The channel was called Mirror Media.
All right. And in the video he expressed some criticism of the Chinese Communist Party, is that fair?
Yes.
Okay. And subsequently after you became involved with the movement also put out broadcasting that was critical of the Chinese Communist Party, right?
Yes.
In fact, that was the goal of GTV, was to be able to broadcast that kind of.
Ms. Murray said, objection.
The court said, overruled. You can express your understanding of the goal of GTV.
Mr. Kumraju said, I'll phrase it that way, Your Honor.
The court said, okay.
It was your understanding that the goal of GTV was to be able to broadcast messages that were critical of the CCP to people in China. Correct?
Yes.
Now, there were some people in the movement who appeared in the broadcast, correct?
Yes.
And there were some people who did work for the movement who did not appear on the broadcast, correct?
Yes.
And did you ever appear in a broadcast?
I appeared just by voicing, not appears as physically, like appearances.
So you only used your voice, you didn't show your face, is that right?
Correct.
Why didn't you show your face?
Because I want to keep it just not I just decide not to show my face.
Was there any reason?
Well, so I don't want to.
Ms. Murray said, objection.
The court said, overruled. You may answer.
Yeah. Because I also don't want to be targeted by the CCP.
Sorry. Did you say you didn't want to be targeted by the CCP, is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. Now, you also testified on direct about the fact that farm members used Discord, right?
Yes.
What is your understanding of why they used Discord instead of, text messaging, for example?
The reason I don't know.
And you also testified on direct about WebEx, right?
Yes.
Do you have an understanding as to why they chose WebEx?
This part of reason I know.
Whatever you know, sir.
Is because WebEx has a feature allow over 100 participants to be online at the same time.
Were you on WebExes that had over 100 participants?
Yes.
Okay. So those were large gatherings of movement members?
Yes.
Was Mr. Guo part of any of those?
Yes.
Okay. And everybody who was on that WebEx could speak if they wanted to, right?
No.
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 Why?
Because it was some people muted, there was only have a speaker allowed to speak.
Okay. So someone would have to recognize the speaker, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you also used a Discord name. I believe it was Coffee Cantana, do I have that right?
Coffee Cantata.
Cantata. Okay. Thank you, sir. Is there a reason why you picked that name?
Yes.
What's that?
I personally like to drink coffee. I play the classic music. Cantata is a piece of the classic music.
So it was related to your interests, right?
Correct.
Okay. And you interacted with other movement members who were also using Discord names, right?
Correct.
And even some people who appeared in broadcasts used, I'll say, pseudonyms, right?
I'm sorry?
They used different names than their real names, right? Some people who appeared in broadcasts.
Correct.
Like Mulan, for example, right?
Correct.
That's not, do you know somebody named Octopus?
Yes.
Okay. That's not Octopus's real name either, right?
That's not.
Did Octopus ever appear in a broadcast?
I do not recall that.
Okay. How about Nebula?
Yes.
You know somebody who went by the name Nebula?
Yes.
Okay. And that wasn't that person's real name either.
Correct.
Did that person appear in a broadcast?
I do not recall that.
Do you have an understanding as to why they were using different names?
Ms. Murray said, objection, Your Honor.
The court said, sustained.
Now, in addition to doing kind of the video streaming work that you talked about, right? You also opened bank accounts on behalf of the farms, right?
Correct.
So you were entrusted with receiving the money from other farm members, right?
I don't know what's from other farm members.
Okay. Let me put it this way, you were entrusted with the money that the UK farm was receiving, right?
I cannot make that entrust because that's something someone has to say if they entrust me or not. But I didn't receive that type of.
Okay. You were given authority over the bank account that contained the money, right?
Under authority, I'm sorry?
You were given the authority over the bank account that received the money, right?
I was instructed to open account.
Okay. Was it your name on the account, sir?
The account I was a signer.
Okay. Mr. Kamraju said, could we show for just the parties, the court, and the witness, DX60476, please? While that's being pulled up, how many different bank accounts did you open up, sir?
3.
3. And were those all in the same name?
No.
They were in different companies' names, right?
Correct.
And some of those companies you started, right?
No, I didn't start a company.
You didn't start any companies.
That's not my company.
Well, okay. I'm just asking whether did your name appear on any formation documents for one of the companies, sir?
Yes.
Okay. And when you opened those accounts, I think you testified on direct that you told the banks that they were for your real estate business, right?
I was instructed to tell them that.
Okay. But that is what you told them, right?
Yes.
And you told them that, right?
Yes.
Okay. And that wasn't true, right?
Correct.
Because in reality, you were receiving the money that the farm was taking in, right?
I would not say the farm, because all the wire to me didn't tell me which one was farm. Which farm or individual, the person's relation. I know was farm the follower wanted to invest in G-series.
Yeah. Sorry, sir, I wasn't asking about where the money came from. I was saying this was the money that the UK farm was receiving, right?
Yes.
The money wasn't going to your real estate business, right?
No.
Okay. So you misrepresented the nature of the account to the bank, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you did that because you were trying to help the movement, right?
Help the followers.
Right. Help the followers, right?
Yes.
And help the UK farm, right?
Just help the followers.
I'm sorry, sir, maybe I'm not understanding. Could you explain the distinction that you're drawing there?
Yes. My intention help the farm because the UK London farm leader tell me that ask me my help to help the followers. But didn't specify if the follower was all from the UK London club or other farms.
Okay. So how much money would you say came into the bank accounts that you opened?
About $2 million.
About $2 million. And do you remember from roughly how many recipients it came in from? Or, sorry. Withdrawn. Do you remember from approximately how many senders it came in from?
Approximately 50.
Approximately 50, sir. Sorry, is that what you said?
Correct.
All right. I think DX60476 is on your screen now. Could you just take a look at that, please?
Yes. Page.
Mr. Kamraju said, okay. Maybe we can scroll to the next. Do you recognize this document, sir?
Yes.
Okay. Does your signature appear on it?
Yes.
What's the date next to your signature?
February 24, 2021.
Okay. And what is this document, sir?
Oh, yeah. This is Florida, State of Florida business status. I think it's certifications.
Certification. Okay. Mr. Kamraju said, let's go to page 2. Sorry, page 2. Do you recognize this?
Yes.
What's this?
This is from IRS about the EIN numbers.
And do you see the name of a company listed in the first sentence, sir?
Yes.
Okay. Is that one of the companies that you used to open bank accounts for the UK farm?
This name was created by the UK farm. I used to open account.
Mr. Kamraju said, Your Honor, the government, I did it again. The defense is going to offer DX60476 into evidence.
Ms. Murray said, no objection.
The court said, it is admitted.
Defendant's Exhibit 60476 received in evidence.
Mr. Kamraju said, thank you. Could we publish to the jury? I promise I won't do it 3 times. So this is the formation documents for one of those companies, correct?
Yes.
Mr. Kamraju said, could we go to the next page, please? Page after that, please. Thanks. And just blow up the signature line. Do you see where it says, Incorporator, sir?
Yes.
Whose signature is that?
Mine.
So you began this company on February 24, 2021, right?
I registered it myself, but the director was still listed as the UK leaders.
Okay. You registered it on this day, right?
Yes.
All right. So you first started opening bank accounts to receive the money for the UK farm in 2021, right?
Correct.
Now, as part of your work receiving the money, did you also account for how the money was being spent?
I documented, yes.
So you looked at the bank statements to see where the money was going?
The money was only instructed to wire out.
I'm sorry, could you say that again?
All the money was instructed to wire out.
All the money was instructed to wire out.
Correct.
Right. So you never received any instructions to wire money to Mr. Gov't, right?
Not to him.
Okay. Now, we talked a little bit about the volunteer work that you did for the farm. The farm more broadly did volunteer work as well, right?
Yes.
There was a project in the Ukraine, is that right?
That's a Farm Himalaya Global Alliance, not just one farm.
Okay. So several farms united in that effort.
All farms participated.
Okay. And what were they doing?
There was the Ukraine.
Ms. Murray said, objection, Your Honor. Relevance.
The court said, overruled. You may answer.
It was Ukraine, humanitarian missions. They were be called to the borderline between Poland and the Ukraine. The mission was to rescue Chinese nationals and to do other humanitarian works.
The court said, rescue them from where?
The witness said, between the borderline at Poland and the Ukraine.
Okay. Thank you. Now, you testified on direct that you became concerned about the way some of the money was being spent that had come into those bank accounts. Is that right?
Not a concern to those accounts.
So you never had any concern about those accounts, is that right?
There were meetings, private meetings, between Gov't and UK London Club. There were things mentioned just from the UK London Club financials, status, and province. There were misproper used funds was addressed.
Okay. Who was misusing the funds?
At the time the meeting, David Dye, the leader of UK London Club, was accused misused global donation. Global Foundation funds.
So he was accused, withdrawn. David Dye was accused of misusing Rule of Law Foundation funds at this meeting?
At that meeting, yes.
Okay. But that meeting was a meeting of the UK farm?
Yes.
So they were discussing misuse of the foundation's money at the farm meeting, right?
Ms. Murray said, objection. 401, 403.
The court said you may answer.
That was mentioned in the meeting, yes.
Okay. Now, I think you just said Mr. Guo was part of that meeting, right?
Yes.
So he was part of this discussion about these accusations, right?
Yes. He was there.
Okay. And the topic was, or one of the topics at least were these accusations, right?
Yes.
So you heard Mr. Gov't discuss those accusations, right?
Yes.
Okay. And it was resolved to look into those accusations, right, figure out if they were real?
I don't know if they were resolved.
It was decided at the meeting, sir.
It wasn't decided, it was just brought it out, the accusations.
Okay. Did anybody reach a decision as to what to do about the accusations at that meeting?
At a meeting Gov't even asked one person from the Rule of Law Foundations. To my knowledge, the person keeps track of the funds. Gov't personally asked that person about the David Dye's accusations.
Okay. So Mr. Gov't asked that person about the accusations, right?
Yes.
And the accusations were that UK David, that's David Dye, right?
Yes.
Was misusing the funds, correct?
Yes.
Were there any other accusations made against UK David of misappropriating funds?
Yes.
How many times did that happen?
Ms. Murray said, objection.
The court said you can step up.
Continued on next page. At sidebar.
Ms. Murray said, Your Honor, as an initial matter, this is hearsay that he's trying to elicit. In addition, the accusations that there was a misuse of funds is being introduced and offered for the truth. For the fact that there was, in fact, misuse of funds in this 403 problem.
Mr. Kamraju said, well, first of all, any introduction of a defendant's out-of-court statement is not automatically hearsay. We're simply eliciting his testimony to show when there were accusations. They were taken seriously and people were investigated, including Mr. Guo. So you have to at least establish that the accusations were made. Whether they are true or not, we don't know. We're not asking the witness to opine on whether they are true. We're just saying they wanted to look into it.
Ms. Murray said, Your Honor, I don't see how they are not being offered for their truth here.
The court said, They are being offered for their truth.
Mr. Kamraju said, but I didn't even ask him if the accusations were true, Your Honor.
The court said, you want to use those accusations to make the argument that Mr. Gov't had a legitimate interest in guarding the funds for the cause.
Mr. Kamraju said, yes. And so the only relevant fact there is that there were accusations made. Not whether the accusations are true or not, which is all I'm trying to elicit. And that's all I've elicited so far.
Ms. Shrofa said, in fact, Mr. Kamraju could ask, you don't know if these accusations were true or false. We are not trying to introduce them for their truthfulness.
Ms. Murray said, he's already established the fact that there were accusations. So the additional line of questioning into, there were other accusations, weren't there, is leading into. Again, trying to indicate and imply the truth of a fact that there were accusations of misuse of funds. I don't see any other purpose for it to come in, and it's unduly prejudicial.
Mr. Kamraju said, the purpose is the same no matter how many times I ask the question about accusations.
Ms. Murray said, right. And it's already in evidence now.
The court said, so it seems that there are two purposes, both for the fact of the accusation and for the truth of the accusation, because you want to portray Mr. Gov't as guarding these funds for his political cause.
Mr. Kamraju said, but I don't believe that the second point requires the accusations to be true or false. If the U.S. Attorney's Office investigates somebody and responds to a victim complaint, that's not a statement of the victim complaint is true or it's false. It's simply evidence that the U.S. Attorney's Office took the victim complaint seriously. You don't have to have the truth of the victim complaint in order to establish that they took it seriously.
Ms. Murray said, I think at bottom, Your Honor. Mr. Kamraju is saying what he wants to get in is the fact that there were accusations. That's already in. So there's no additional line of questioning that would be fruitful unless it's going to something improper.
Mr. Kamraju said, no, because we're allowed to point out the fact that it happened more than once. That goes to how serious they took it.
Ms. Shrofa said, and that each time the accusation was addressed, not whether the accusation was true or false. You are free to elicit on redirect that the accusations were, in fact, false. Of course that's your prerogative. But that does not make Mr. Kamraju's questioning improper or unduly prejudicial. In fact, that was the whole point of your direct. Your whole point of the direct was to show that Mr. Gov't did nothing. So we're entitled to show that what you did on direct was improper.
Ms. Murray said, Your Honor, again, it's hearsay. They are focusing on what Mr. Gov't did and what Mr. Gov't said. Here they are asking this witness with respect to how seriously the accusations were taken or not. I think we've established this witness said he didn't know what decision was made or whether there was a resolution to take certain action or not.
The court said, so you can ask whether there were any other accusations, but it's going to stop there.
Mr. Kamraju said, okay, Your Honor.
Continued on next page. In open court. By Mr. Kamraju.
There came a point where the UK farm was dissolved, correct?
Correct.
Why was that?
Because there were at the time Himalaya Global Alliance started doing statistical work to gather all the farms' financial balance sheets. And also at the time to have all the farms to wire all the balance each farm held to the Himalaya Global Alliance. And at the time because accusation made it to David Dye, and also he has some unwired balance. It was quite a big amount of balance that Miles Gov't asked him also provide him a deadline to wire. He failed that.
What was the, I think you referred to it as an unwired balance. What was that?
Because there's some funds the farm held. The fund has to be transferred to the Himalaya Global Alliance. Designated accounts. And a couple other meetings. There were Miles Gov't gave David Dye a deadline to wire the balance which he failed to do that. So that impact dissolving the whole farms. And also Miles Gov't stripped his title and he was terminated from this not terminated. He was removed from the farm and from the movement.
Was there a reason given for his termination from the farm and the movement?
That I don't know.
So you weren't privy to any of those reasons?
I was in the meeting.
Now, I'd like to talk a little bit about the refunds that you requested, okay?
Sure.
You asked for a refund from G Fashion, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you asked for a refund from G Clubs, right?
Correct.
Now, when you asked for the refund from G Clubs, did you go to the company and ask for a refund?
Yes, I did email them.
Okay. So you emailed G Clubs for a refund?
Yes.
Did you get a response?
Only email I was received, just acknowledgement they received my request. After that, no more response.
And that response withdrawn. That refund request was made, I think you testified, in July of 2023, right?
I can't remember the dates.
You don't remember testifying earlier today that it was July 2023?
The whole other refund July 15, 2023, was initiated to the Washington, D.C. farms.
Oh, I'm sorry. I misunderstood. The July 15th date is when you applied to the farms for the refunds?
Yes.
Approximately how long before you went to the farms did you submit the G Club's request?
That I don't remember.
Well, not asking for a specific date, but months, years, weeks?
Months.
Months. Okay. And it was several months after you had purchased your G Club membership initially, right?
Yes.
Why did you go to the farms to get a refund from G Clubs?
Because Zhou instructed any follower, any problem, issues will first contact the farm leaders. Which at the time I was associated with Washington, D.C. farm. So, as instructed, that is what I did.
But you went to G Clubs first, right?
No, I don't remember if went to G Club first.
Sir. I thought you just testified a moment ago that you went months prior to submitting a farm request.
Ms. Murray said, "Objection, Your Honor. Mischaracterizes the testimony."
The court said, "Sustained."
Okay. So do you remember? Did you go to G Clubs first or the farms first?
I don't remember.
Ms. Murray said, "Objection, asked and answered."
The court said, "Sustained."
Okay. I'm sorry, sir. You said that you went to the farms because Mr. Gov't said you should go there first, right?
Not first. You have any issues, we will go to the farm leader.
And what did you think it was that the farm leader could do for you with respect to G Clubs?
Gov't mentioned the farm leader roles. Leader roles only to serve the followers. There's no class or underling. Every follower and the leader are equal.
Okay. I was just asking what you thought that the farms could do for you with respect to G Clubs.
Because that's a rule, which farm you're associated with. And you only can associate with one farm. So at the time I was with Washington, D.C. farm. That's only farm I can go to.
I understand, sir, you went to the Washington farm because that was your farm, right?
At that time, yes.
Okay. I'm just trying to understand why you thought the farm could help you out with a G Clubs problem.
Because that's Gov't stated anything, if it's related to the movement, G series. We can go to the leaders of the farm.
Okay. And what were the farm leaders supposed to do, sir?
To help with my request.
Okay. Were you expecting the farms to pay the money back to you that you had spent on G Clubs?
That I didn't expect.
What kind of help were you expecting?
My hope was to have the farm leader first to acknowledge that and for my request. Then the second was I going to wait for the answer, but I don't expect what will be the next. But my ultimate goal was to get a refund.
Continued on next page. By Mr. Kamraju.
Okay. And you did ultimately get a refund, is that right?
Yes, I received a G Club's refund.
Okay. And prior to getting the G Club's refund, they made a request that you return some equipment. Right?
Correct.
What was that equipment?
It was streaming equipment.
Okay. And why did you have that equipment?
Because the Washington, D.C. farm sent it to me for the streaming, for the farm streaming. To use for the farm streaming, also, the equipment was used during the protest streamings. For the Himalaya Global Alliance.
Okay. So it was used to broadcast farm business, basically.
And for the Himalaya Global Alliance.
Was it expensive equipment?
To my knowledge, yes.
Did you send the equipment back, sir?
Yes.
Who did you send it to?
I sent it to Washington, D.C. farm. They provided the address.
Okay. And do you have any knowledge as to what they did with that once you returned it?
After I returned it, they had one person inspect it, and then once inspected everything thoroughly. I had a confirmation item was received, inspected.
Okay. And then you received your refund after that, is that right?
Correct.
Okay. About how long was it after that you got your refund?
I got my refund on December 1st, 2023.
And when was the inspection?
That was in about October.
Of 2023?
2023.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Mr. Kamraju said, if I could just have one moment, Your Honor. Now, sir, you testified on direct about protests, right?
Yes.
And you testified that your role in the protests was helping to stream them, correct?
Yes.
How many protests did you stream?
Personally stream, about dozens.
Dozens?
Yes, personally streamed.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just talking about the ones that you streamed.
Yes.
Okay. Now the ones that you testified on direct I believe were in connection to a man named Luke Despens. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. And he was the bankruptcy trustee, correct?
Correct.
Were all of the streams that you personally participated in withdrawn? Were all of the streams that you personally participated in of protests involving the bankruptcy trustee?
Not all of the streams.
Okay. So there were some that were not that, right?
Correct.
What were those other ones about?
Other ones about protesting Capitol Hill.
Okay. You were protesting at Capitol Hill. The protests occurred at Capitol Hill. The one you're talking about?
Yes.
What were they protesting?
Ms. Murray said, objection. Lacks personal knowledge.
The court said, if he observed the streaming, he may know what they were protesting. Few know.
The witness said, yes, Your Honor.
Yes. At Capitol Hill protest was also for Milesqua.
Okay. But what were they protesting against, sir?
It was against persecution against Milesqua. There were protests, unfair justice against Milesqua.
When was this protest?
This was in November 2022 to lasted about a month.
Sorry. You said it lasted about a month, sir.
Correct.
And was there any specific group of people they were protesting?
Yes.
Who was that?
Mostly followers from Washington, D.C. farm.
Okay. So those were the people who were mostly participating in the protest, right?
Yes.
Okay. Were the protests aimed at any particular group of people?
The Capitol one didn't aim any particular people, no.
Okay. Was it targeted at any particular government agency?
Ms. Murray said, objection. 403.
The court said, I'll allow the question.
The witness said, yes, Your Honor.
The first, the Chinese Communist Party, and also there were U.S. Justice were mentioned during the protest.
Okay. And when you say the Chinese Communist Party, the protests were against the CCP, right?
Yes.
And you testified on direct that the protests of the bankruptcy trustee involved, and I wrote it down but I may have it wrong so correct me. Please, CCP running dogs, right?
That's what I'd guess.
Okay. Was any similar language used during the Capitol Hill protest?
He was at the protest called 90 Days Protest for Luke Despens wasn't at the Capitol.
I understand. I'm asking about the Capitol Hill protests.
His name weren't mentioned at the Capitol Hills.
Okay. Did you hear anybody at the Capitol Hill protests talk about CCP spies?
Yes.
Okay. Have you heard Mr. Guo refer to people as CCP spies before?
Yes, he did refer.
Have you heard other movement members refer to people as CCP spies?
I never participated in other movements.
Sorry, sir. I was talking about other NFSC movement members refer to people as CCP spies.
Yes.
What is your understanding of that phrase?
Just CCP spies, just a name to those acquisition to the people.
So it doesn't have any particular meaning to you?
Just CCP spies.
Okay. And when you heard that, you didn't have any evidence one way or the other as to whether those people were actually CCP spies, right?
Ms. Murray said, "Objection, Your Honor."
The court said you may answer.
That I don't.
Sorry. You said you don't, right?
I don't.
Okay. And you testified on direct that at the time of the protests of the bankruptcy trustee, you didn't have any evidence with respect to whether the trustee was working on behalf of the CCP, right?
That I don't.
You just didn't know one way or the other, right?
At the time I believed it, but I don't have the evidence to prove it.
Okay. And because you believed it, you participated in those protests, right?
Yes.
You streamed them, right?
Yes.
You wanted to get the word out, right?
Yes.
You wanted other people to hear what was happening, right?
Yes.
Because you believed an injustice was happening, right?
At the time I believed it.
Mr. Kumraju said, okay. Your Honor. At this time the defense would like to read and enter into evidence a stipulation between the parties.
The court said go ahead.
Mr. Kumraju said, it's DX Stip 0001. And it reads, it is hereby stipulated and agreed by the United States of America and Miles Guo, the defendant, through their attorneys of record, that, 1, the FBI has investigated individuals who, working at the direction of the government of the People's Republic of China, the PRC government, have engaged in an international campaign known as Operation Fox Hunt, to coerce individuals located in the United States and elsewhere to return to China to face charges brought by the PRC government or to otherwise reach financial settlements with the PRC government. 2. In 2017, a U.S. law enforcement agency assessed that Mr. Miles Guo was the highest priority of China's repatriation efforts. 3. In 2017, a U.S. law enforcement agency received information that Chinese officials were paying and providing food and signs to protesters of Mr. Guo. 4. In 2018, a U.S. law enforcement agency received information that the PRC government had established a special investigative group in China to manage China's investigation of and actions against Mr. Guo. 5. To carry out some of the objectives of Fox Hunt. In 2017, the PRC government tasked a specially designated group of operatives, the group, with discrediting and harassing individuals, including Mr. Guo, by using interactive computer services and electronic communication systems. The group is based out of the Beijing Municipal Public Security Bureau at a facility in Beijing's Dongqing district. The group was previously referred to as the Cyber Investigation Team, and was later referred to as the 9112 Special Project Working Group. The group's tactics aimed at Mr. Gov't included using anonymized social media accounts operated by the group and by pressuring U.S. social media companies to remove Mr. Gov't and U.S.-based associates of Mr. Gov't from social media platforms. These efforts were part of the PRC government's broader effort to prevent, disrupt, and harass Mr. Govt's use of social media and other online platforms to disseminate and discuss disfavored content. In or about December 2018, officers of the group were directed to post 3 videos or posts daily with YouTube and Facebook accounts, with one of the posts required to be anti-Mr. Gov't. On February 3, 2020, a PRC government official issued a tasking requirement that every member of the group shall write an original article with content related to targeting Mr. Gov't, the COVID pandemic, or Hong Kong. The FBI investigated the group's activities, including its activities aimed at Mr. Govt. And the U.S. government has charged many of the group's members with violations of U.S. law. 6. Since Mr. Govt fled the PRC, the PRC government has sought his return for prosecution in the PRC and has employed numerous methods to effect Mr. Govt's capture or arrest. In May 2017, the PRC government sent 4 undeclared agents from the PRC's Ministry of State Security, MSS, to the United States to attempt to cause Mr. Govt's coerced repatriation to the PRC as part of the Fox Hunt initiative. The U.S. government disrupted the PRC government's efforts to forcefully repatriate Mr. Govt, and Mr. Govt continued to reside in the United States. 7. Between May 2017 and January 2018, at least 4 individuals, including George Higginbotham, Elliot Broidy, Nikki Lum Davis, and Prakazrel Michel, never disclosed that they were actually acting on behalf of foreign actors, including the PRC government, to lobby officials in the Trump administration in an effort to cause Mr. Govt's extradition to China. Higginbotham, Broidy, Davis, and Michel were each convicted of violating U.S. law regarding their lobbying efforts. The efforts of these individuals were not successful, and Mr. Govt was never extradited at the request of the PRC government. Instead, and since approximately 2015, Mr. Govt has been able to reside in the United States with his family. 8. On October 23, 2018, a court in Hong Kong entered an order seizing and restraining Mr. Govt's assets in Hong Kong and elsewhere under the court's jurisdiction. It is further stipulated and agreed that this stipulation may be admitted into evidence. And Your Honor, I would offer DX Stip 0001.
The court said, it is admitted.
Defendant's Exhibit Stip 0001 received in evidence.
Mr. Kumraju said, thank you, Your Honor.
By Mr. Kumraju.
So just one question, sir. Prior to hearing me read that information out, had you heard any of that before?
Yes, I heard Miles Govt mentioned it, some of it.
What did you hear him mention?
Ms. Murray said, objection. Hearsay.
The court said, sustained.
Okay. Other than Miles Govt's statements, did you hear it anywhere else?
Ms. Murray said, objection.
The court said, the fact of having heard it, he can answer. It's that you can't state what you heard.
Just from Miles Govt.
Mr. Kumraju said, no further questions at this time, Your Honor.
The court said, redirect?
Ms. Murray said, yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
Redirect examination. By Ms. Murray.
Mr. Zhou, you were asked questions on cross-examination about the hierarchy of the Himalaya Global Alliance. Do you recall those questions?
Yes.
Who appointed the farm leaders?
The farm leaders, beginning will be only appointed by Miles Govt, but later. Once the Himalaya Global Alliance farm, especially the Iron Blood Group farm, it will be jointly appoint the leaders.
And who appointed the members of the Iron Blood Group?
Miles Govt.
Who was the ultimate highest leader of the farms?
Mr. Kumraju said, objection.
The court said, overruled. You may answer.
Well, Miles Gua.
And who was the ultimate highest leader of the Himalaya Global Alliance?
Miles Gua.
You were asked questions on cross-examination yesterday and again today about the purposes of the G-series investments. Do you recall those?
Yes.
Your understanding that GTV was a social media company was based on whose statements?
Based on Miles Gua's statements.
Your understanding that G Clubs was a membership service was based on whose statements?
Miles Gua's statements.
Your understanding that the Himalaya Exchange was a cryptocurrency platform was based on whose statements?
Miles Gua's statements.
Who announced the G-series investments?
I'm sorry?
Who announced the G-series investments?
Miles Gua.
Who promoted the G-series offerings?
Miles Gua.
You were also asked questions about how the GTV private placement funds were to be used. Do you recall those?
Yes.
Did Gua say he was going to send GTV investor funds to a hedge fund?
No. I don't recall that.
You were also asked questions about your own GTV investment through Voice of Gua, or VOG. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Who identified Sarah Wei as the point of contact for a GTV investment below $100,000?
Miles Gua.
You were asked some questions about what you expected to receive in exchange for your G Club's membership money. Do you remember those questions?
Yes.
Did you ever receive an NFSC passport for your $70,000 Grand Dollar Club's payment?
No.
Did you ever receive any G Club stock for your $70,000 Grand Dollar Club's payment?
Mr. Kamraju said, "Objection, Your Honor."
The court said you may answer.
No.
Did you ever receive any G Fashion stocks for your $70,000 Grand Dollar Club's payment?
Mr. Kamraju said, "Same objection."
The court said you may answer.
No.
Aside from discounts on G Fashion items, did you receive benefits for your $70,000 Grand Dollar Club's payment?
I would not say benefits, but I received small souvenir items, the mug and a bag of coffee.
A mug and a bag of coffee, is that correct?
Yes.
Did you ever receive GTV stock for your $31,300 investment in GTV through Voice of Gua?
No.
Would you have sent money to G Clubs if you knew that you would not get any stock?
No.
Would you have loaned money to the UK farm if you knew you would not get any stock?
No.
You made the choice to invest in a G-series offering based on whose statements?
Could you repeat that question, ma'am?
Sure. You made the choice to invest in a G-series offering based on whose statements about those offerings?
Miles Gua's.
And how much money did you lose in the G-series investment?
As the money, because there was coin involved, even until this day, I didn't receive the full refund. But the coins, at the time, for if I requested at the time, the value of the coin's value still added. I believe it estimated about $10. So for that value, it's also, I will consider that, so also additional value. But in the dollar, from the investment, the principal parts, I still didn't receive near $30,000.
And at the time that you participated in G-series offerings, it was your understanding that Miles Gua personally guaranteed that you wouldn't lose any of your principal. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Ms. Murray said, "May I have a moment, Your Honor?"
The court said yes.
Ms. Murray said, "Nothing further, Your Honor."
The court said recross?
Mr. Kamraju said, "Just briefly, Your Honor." Recross-examination.
By Mr. Kamraju.
You were asked a series of questions about who was the leader of the ultimate leader of the farms. Correct?
Yes.
And you testified it was Miles Gua, right?
Correct.
Okay. In connection with the money that you took in as the bank accounts, did you ever receive a single instruction from Miles Gua?
Not direct from him, no.
Mr. Gua never reached out to you and said do X with the money, right?
He did.
Mr. Guo reached out directly to you and said send the money here.
No. In a meeting took place with UK Farm, the part of the meeting. Miles Gwat asked not just David Dye to return all the money, he asked all the member from UK London Club who, direct or indirect, has the money from followers, will do the same, by the deadline, to wire all the remaining balance to those accounts.
Okay. And he gave that direction to everybody, right?
Yes.
Now you testified on redirect that you had lost $30,000, correct?
Yes.
Okay. What is that based on?
The principles.
But the principle of what, sir?
The principle from, there's a portion from the VOG investments.
Okay.
There were a portion from the coins I purchased. There were parts of the money from farm loan.
How much of the money came from the farm loans?
I invested $21,000 for my farm loans.
Okay. So of the $30,000 that you lost, $21,000 you say is from the farm loans, right?
Part of it.
I'm sorry. I don't understand.
You asked the $30,000, the principal. The $21,000 to the farm loan, that's principal. The VOG investment towards the GTV, that was also invest $31,000 and $300, but I do receive reimbursement from the fair funds. There were about 7% loss. Then adding together, that's estimated about $30,000.
Now your farm loan principal was due to be returned at the end of the term of the loan, right?
The contract stated that, yes.
Okay. And the term of the loan was extended in August of 2023, correct?
It was force extended, without my consent.
They didn't need your consent, though, right? They had the right to do it under the contract, right?
That I don't recall if it's their right to do that.
So you don't remember one way or the other?
I receive a notice just purely for extension 24 hours, months, without any option to opt out.
Okay. So 24 months from August of 2023, right?
Yes.
Okay. So your farm loan is not actually due to be repaid until next year, right?
Ms. Murray said, "Objection, Your Honor." Scope.
The court said, "Sustained."
Mr. Kumraju said, "Your Honor, could we have a sidebar on that quickly?"
The court said yes.
Continued on next page. At the sidebar.
The court said, "Your objection?"
Ms. Murray said, "Yes, Your Honor." So objection to scope but also objection on 403 grounds. There is an implication here that the witness could have contracted out of being defrauded. He just said that he was forced to extend the loan. He had no consent, it was just given to him. And Mr. Kumraju is now suggesting that there was a provision in the original loan that permitted that. But there's not an ability to explain what this witness knew. And it also calls for him to bring a legal conclusion that he is not equipped to make.
The court said, certainly on the grounds of legal conclusion, he's not a lawyer. He can't interpret a contract.
Mr. Kumraju said, I can ask him what his understanding is, right?
The court said, you could ask what his understanding is.
Mr. Kumraju said, okay. I'll ask that question.
Ms. Murray said, he can't contract himself out of a fraud, and that's the 403 basis for the objection.
Mr. Kumraju said, they brought up the idea of the refund, Your Honor, and allowed him to say that. They can allege it's a fraud, we're allowed to allege that it's not.
Ms. Murray said, and Your Honor, I would just note, he said he didn't recall what was in the contract. So he's already asked a question that Mr. Kumraju answered, or Mr.
The court said, was that the testimony? Can you go back and see?
Ms. Murray said, regarding if this is regarding the extension.
The court said, you want to first find out whether he recalled if it's a term of the loan or the fact of the extension.
Ms. Murray said, the fact of the ability of the counterparty to require an extension without consent. That.
Mr. Kumraju said, that was not what my question went to. My question just said simply, and I didn't ask the understanding. But if I were to ask, I'd say, so your understanding is that your loan is due to be repaid a year from now.
Mr. Ferguson said, no.
The court said, I want to go back to the testimony if you wouldn't mind.
Record read.
Ms. Murray said, Your Honor, he's established what this witness knew and what he understood at the time. And he's implying to the jury that he can contract out of the fraud. And that's clearly impermissible under 403 and under black-letter law.
Mr. Kamraju said, I'm not saying anything whether he can contract out of the fraud. They asked what his loss was. They brought that out, not us. And I'm simply saying that he received a notice, he understands he received a notice. And is it his understanding that under the notice, the loan will be repaid a year from now?
Ms. Murray said, Your Honor. There's no other probative purpose for this other than to imply he can contract out of the fraud. He said he wanted a refund of his money. He's speaking to his losses. That is what he has testified to.
Mr. Kamraju said, then they didn't need to bring up the losses. I'm entitled to respond. They put it in issue. Your Honor, not me.
Ms. Murray said, Your Honor, the fraud is complete as soon as the misrepresentation is made.
The court said, his own understanding that was it?
Mr. Kamraju said, if his losses are relevant. Ms. Murray just said that the fraud is complete at the time of the misrepresentation. If that's true, then the actual losses he suffered are irrelevant. The government nonetheless elicited it, so I'm entitled to say. That number is wrong, you testified to an incorrect number, sir.
Ms. Murray said, Your Honor, there's no accounting. He's asked his understanding. He's given a summary of his understanding of how much money he put in and how much money he was not repaid. Which was the guarantee that Miles Gua made and did not follow through on.
Mr. Kamraju said, this is a summation, Your Honor. That's fine. It can be presented to the jury in summation. But prior to that we get to attack the very specific things they elicit.
The court said, I'm going to allow what was your understanding.
Mr. Kamraju said, okay. So the question I'll ask, just to make sure I'm complying, so under the notice you received. What is your understanding as to when you will be paid back, or when you should be paid back?
Ms. Murray said, and Your Honor. We would ask that it go no further than that because we still maintain our objection that he's trying to elicit improper implications with this witness. That it's a 403 problem.
Mr. Kamraju said, all of those implications that they keep arguing at sidebar can be dealt with by Your Honor when you instruct the jury as to the law.
Ms. Murray said, no. It's confusing the jury now with respect to this witness's testimony.
Mr. Kamraju said, we had this argument just yesterday.
The court said, I'm going to allow the question.
Continued on next page. In open court. By Mr. Kamraju.
Sir, when we paused, we were talking about the extension notice. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Okay. Based on your receipt of that notice, what is your understanding as to when you should be paid back your farm loan principal?
The notice, I think it's invalid, because my previous contract signed with two entities was both established by David Dye. Since David Dye was terminated and removed by the farm, and I believe those two entities both dissolved, automatically, the contract is void.
That's your legal conclusion, sir.
Ms. Murray said, objection, Your Honor.
The court said, overruled. Is that your legal conclusion?
Yes.
Where did you go to law school?
Ms. Murray said, objection, Your Honor.
The court said, sustained.
Okay. So your view is that the farm loan contract is null and void now?
It's void.
Okay. So if you were to sue somebody, you'd have nobody to sue.
Ms. Murray said, objection.
The court said, overruled. You may answer.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Mr. Kamraju said, could you read it back, please?
Record read.
Yes. Out. Witness.
Mr. Kamaraju said, no further questions, Your Honor.
The court said, all righty. Thank you, sir. You may step.
Witness excused.